So OCT today has become the most objective, the most reliable and reproducible of all the techniques that are used in diagnosis as well as monitoring the progression of glaucoma. And when we go to the basic of the OCT machine, it is basically uses a light source that is directed towards the beam splitter, and we have a reference beam and a measurement beam, both of which are the reflected light from both of this is then mutated so as to produce a cross-sectional image of the tissue that is imaged. So OCT has undergone tremendous progress since its inception from the time domain OCT to the Fourier domain analysis, which includes the spectral domain and the swept source. So in time domain OCT, we basically had the interferometer at the heart, and it used a movable reference mirror, and the scanning speed was therefore less. It was 400 A scans per second, and the resolution was in the range of 10 to 15 micrometer. Then came the spectral domain OCT, which did not have did not have a moving reference mirror. It had a fixed reference mirror, and it had the spectrometer as the heart. And so the scanning speed increased exponentially to 200 to 400 times what we had in the time domain OCT. So here the commercially available spectral domain OCTs today come with the scanning speeds ranging from 18,000 to 70,000 scans per second. And also the resolution, it is 5 micrometer. Now, another is the swept source OCT, which used the advantages of both the time domain and the spectral domain OCT. It did not use the spectrometer, and nor did it have a moving reference mirror. It had a fixed reference mirror, and the scanning speed of this was 1 lakh A scans per second. However, the resolution is same as the spectral domain OCT. And it also helped in extended depth of imaging up to the level of the lamina fibrosa and the choroidal vasculature as well. So this is the difference basically between the time domain and the spectral domain, as I have discussed regarding the scanning speed, the resolution, and time domain has been replaced by spectral domain in the clinical practice today. So three important parameters. As we know, the optic nerve head analysis definitely is very important in glaucoma. Apart from that, we have the RNFL analysis. And another important area is the macular area, where we have 50% of the ganglion cells. So macular ganglion cell complex is also another important thing. Now, among the scanning protocols, we basically have to understand that we have three main protocols. First is the 200 by 200. So we have a 6 mm square where we have 200 horizontal scan lines, and each is composed of 200 A scans. So apart from the disc, as we have already stated, we have the scan at the macula at the center of the fovea. So we have a macular scan again 200 by 200 and a macular scan of a higher resolution. This is the 512 by 128, where we have 128 horizontal scan lines, each composed of 512 A scans. So this is basically what we have, the OCT view that we can see. I'll not go into the interpretation of this as it will be discussed in the next talk, but just a gross overview. We have the demographic data of the patient, which is basically a normative database which all the machines use. Then we have the signal strength. We have the entire optic nerve head analysis. We have the RNFL thickness map, the deviation map, the neuroretinal rim thickness, the temporal superior nasal inferior temporal quadrant analysis, the quadrantic as well as the clockwise distribution, and the OCT image. So this entire thing can be visualized from this report. Now, RNFL analysis traditionally uses the 3.46 millimeter scan circle that is centered on the optic nerve head or the Bruch membrane opening. It gives us the TSNIT profile. We have the RNFL, second is the RNFL changes across the 6 by 6 mm cube, and also the GMP software of Spectralis. In addition to the 3.46 mm scan circle, we have two additional scan circles, 4.1 and 4.7 mm. So the retinal thickness map regarding the Cirrus HD OCT. Now, as we know, the inferotemporal quadrant, it is the most commonly involved, and the most common area is 2 millimeter from the center of the disc. Now, the scan circle, which we have of 3.73, 3.46, it has a radius of 1.73. So this 2 millimeter area, it falls outside this calculation circle. This is where this comes to be of use. Now, the scan circle diameter is something that directly affects the RNFL measurements, and the scan circle is projected further away from the optic nerve head in case of high myopia. Now, something about the thickness and the deviation map. So when we are looking at this blue color map, this basically gives a butterfly pattern, and where we have just to remember that the warmer colors like red, orange, yellow will indicate more thickness, while lesser warm colors like we have the cooler colors in the bluish tone in this area, that means it indicates a defect. And when we are looking at this portion, the deviation map, how much it is deviated from the normal, here, the color coding is slightly different. You have the red, which is outside the normal limit. So here you have the defect out here. Now, the TSNIT profile is nothing but it is the entire scan has been stretched into a line diagram. So here we can have an overview of both the right and the left eye at the same time. And you see two peaks over here. And this double hump is basically because you know the superior and the inferior retinal nerve fibers are thicker in this area. So we have two peaks. In this area, the superior shows a slight peak, but if you go to the inferior area, there is a slight amount of flattening. That means there is some thinning out here. The same thing if we are in a busy OPD and we want to read this out. So it's basically through the color coding, we can see the defect in the superior and the inferior portion. And if we want the clockwise distribution, it's also shown over here. So optic nerve head parameters at a single glance from this report, this comes in the first on the topmost part as I have shown. So here again, the color coding comes in use. We can see the RNFL asymmetry and the color coding is basically the same. Same thing holds good for the neuroretinal rim thickness, RNFL rim thickness. If we see it in the green zone, we are sure that it's normal. In the red zone, there is some defect. And we can compare both the right and the left eye. The right eye shows a solid line, left eye will show you a dotted line. Now, experimental models have shown that the ganglion cell layer is the early site of glaucomatous damage, and measuring this GCA alone will provide us a better understanding of the disease. Now, what is this GCA? It's nothing but it is the ganglion cell along with your IPL. But when we are talking about GCC, it is these two components, the GC, IPL, along with your RNFL component. Now, inferior temporal sector is most commonly displays the changes. The ganglion cell analysis, because apart from the optic nerve head, it's very important to look at the ganglion cells. Again, you have the thickness maps, the deviation maps, and the OCT protocols. Sorry, the OCT scans. So the interpretation is almost the same for all parameters amongst the different devices that we use. Color coding is basically the same. And now, along with this structural imaging, it is very important to have a corresponding field effect. And among the three parameters that we have discussed, the optic nerve head, the macular ganglion cell, or the RNFL, any of the components may be involved earlier than the other. And definitely it goes a long way. OCT helps us in finding our potential glaucoma patients, because the time from OCT can detect the damage to the patient actually developing a gross visual field defect, it ranges on an average from 5 to 6 years. And this is the period when we can start to pick up our potential glaucoma candidates and start treating them early. So over to the next part of the IC for interpretation of the reports. Thank you so much.